Welcome to the Chamber Neighbors Podcast, a show highlighting Chapin's community and commerce. Now here's your hosts, Greater Chapin Chamber of Commerce President and CEO Paul Sadler, and Chapin Neighbors Magazine's Daniel Rendelman.
This is Daniel Rendelman with the Chapin Neighbors Magazine.
And I'm Paul Sadler with the Greater Chapin Chamber of Commerce.
And Paul, who do we have today? What do we have today?
Daniel, we have a treat today.
A treat?
A treat. We've got William Lynch with McAlister-Smith Funeral Home with us today.
The one and only, the man, the myth, the legend.
He's here.
He is here in the house. Hello, William.
Good afternoon. How are y'all doing?
We are good. How are you?
Man, I'm great.
Yes?
I'm so
Awesome.
Privileged to be here today.
Thank you. Well, we're glad to have you here.
Absolutely.
We're happy to have you on our podcast today for all of our listeners to hear from you and to learn about you and why you do what you do. So before we get started, William, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll go from there.
Yes. So my name is William Lynch. I grew up in Sumter, South Carolina. Actually, a little bit outside of Sumter in a little place called Alcolu, South Carolina.
Alcolu. How do you spell that?
It's Alcolu. Apparently, it was three.
Never heard of it.
Three. No, you wouldn't. It's between like Manning and Sumter.
Okay. Alcolu.
I was in the specific area called Lower Alcolu, so I'm from LA. Lower Alcolu.
Got it.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I grew up there. Spent my first 20 years of life growing up there. Little small town, country town. It was great. But got into the funeral business there when I was 19 years old.
Wow.
So 29 now, so that's 10 years. So I've been doing this 10 years. Got into the business there with a little family-owned funeral home. Kind of learned the ropes and then moved up to Columbia. And that is where I met my wife. I will not tell you how we met.
Maybe at a funeral.
Maybe.
How many funeral jokes are we going to have in the next few minutes?
I hope a lot.
I'm
Okay.
dying to hear some.
Yeah. I got it.
Yeah, so met Kelsey there, and now we have been married for 5 years.
How many kids do you have?
We have 3 kids.
3 kids.
We started having kids in 2020.
Ooh, that was a fun
Well, there was
year to have
nothing
kids.
else to do.
There was nothing.
Bake bread, hold funerals, have kids.
Make baby.
That was a lot of funerals during that time. But no, so we have 3 kids now.
And just one that was just born a few months ago.
I think so. February
Okay.
21st.
Okay, so
Yeah, you went from like 1-to-1, now you're in like zone defense.
It's
with 3.
definitely zone defense. It's hectic, and so.
Yeah.
Our oldest is a little over 3, and then we have an almost 2-year-old. He'll be 2 on the 21st of September, which is very easy to remember because, Earth, Wind, and Fire. Do you remember the 21st night of September?
September.
Yeah.
It went over my head. I
Well,
don't know.
it's a great song.
It is a great song.
I'll listen to it.
After we finish this recording, we will be listening and dancing to
It
that
probably
song.
should be the intro song.
We could
this.
probably
Actually, a
make
good
that happen.
idea. I kind of like
So,
I
it.
know a guy.
Yeah. And then, then we had the third, and he is. I don't really do well with math or months, so he was born in February. So I think he's like 4 months.
Okay, nice. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope Kelsey's not listening to this. How do you not know our kids'
I'm in
age?
trouble. So, but live here
We won't tell
in the Chapin area.
Yes.
Have worked for other funeral homes nearby. But tell us about McAlister-Smith.
Yeah. So once I got to Columbia, a little background, I spent approximately 7 to 8 years in corporate funeral service. So large conglomerates that come in, they buy funeral homes, and so you're part of this corporate culture. Learned a lot. Really loved working, with many people across the country, learning about business leadership and business management, and so was in that for a while. But as many people know, corporate funeral service or just corporate in general, it can be a lot. So in January of 2023, as if we didn't have enough coming with a baby being born in February of 2023, I was approached by a guy named Mark Smith. He owns McAlister-Smith Funeral and Cremation. They have 4 facilities in Charleston. They have another low-cost cremation facility in Charleston. And they also have McAlister-Smith Pet Cremation, which is a fully dedicated pet loss department. Wow. And then we also have a funeral home location in Holly Hill, South Carolina.
And coming soon to Alcula.
Maybe.
L.A. Lower Alcula.
Lower Alcula.
Yeah,
so
so
McAlister-Smith from him, and so you're working there.
Yes, so we opened that up in January of 2023. We're located in a very iconic, historic building on State Street in West Columbia. It's a beautiful, beautiful building. It's been there since the 30s. And a little trivia bit, if you ever find yourself at, I don't know, Tipsy Toad or Lazy Creek Trivia Night, it was the first funeral home built as a funeral home in South Carolina.
Wow.
In 1935. So we opened that up, and I guess we're about 6 months in now, and it's been great. You know, we're trying to just let people know who we are, tell our story. The business itself has been around since 1886. So it was founded, I think, the year after the major Charleston earthquake in the 1880s, 1885, I think that was. I wasn't there, but
so McAlister-Smith it's not a new.
It's not a new thing, no. Yeah. So this facility, these people have been serving the Low Country of South Carolina, South Carolinians in general, for a very, very long time.
And now the Midlands.
So we are almost covering the whole state. We cover the Low Country and the Midlands, and so I oversee our Columbia operations for funerals. I oversee our right now our outreach. You know, working with different business partners, like many of the folks here in the chamber or who are in Chapin Neighbors magazine, just pouring into the community. And then, of course, our pet department, too, which is a very unique portion of what
right.
Yeah, that is cool. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah. But you mentioned that, you know, you're in Columbia, but you're not specifically just in that West Columbia area. I mean, you go out to Chapin, you come to Irmo.
Yes.
You do all of that, right?
Yes. So we, as funeral directors, a lot of people don't know this, our license covers the entire state.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, you know, our first couple of funerals that we did as a group in West Columbia were actually, we had one in Spartanburg, we had one in Mount Pleasant. So we go all over. So our service area doesn't just limit us to the West Columbia zip code. We will serve families all over the Richland County, Lexington County, Newberry, wherever it may be.
So the building itself is there in West Columbia.
Right.
But you can go and you can help. So the families in Chapin, for example, greater Chapin area.
Absolutely. I know, obviously I live here. This is where we work, play, worship. This is where we do everything. So families in Chapin, you know, we certainly will serve anyone. We've actually worked with a couple here already, you know, doing all sorts of things. So it has a wide reach for sure.
The building itself, it's an iconic building. My wife and I were able to recently have a grand tour, I guess we could say, and check it out.
It's a neat building.
Yeah,
it's
very
cool.
Very classy and historic. Yet also knowing that, you know, if someone were to pass, you could have a church service, a home service, memorial, celebration of life, and you could take care of them, even though your home base is out of Columbia.
Right, yeah. So we will go wherever we are called is where we will answer that call and go wherever we need to go. You know, home appointments, whatever it may be.
So speaking of calling, what called you into this into this life of being a funeral director?
A voice from the great beyond or something?
Like, you know, we've had the police chief on, we've had digital marketing, we've had radio folks on. And, you know, you can sort of see those, you know, like, okay, yeah, but funeral.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's just...
So...
How'd that happen?
It really kind of fell in my lap. It's not anything... You know, I went into this right after I graduated high school. Like, it wasn't like anything that was on my radar in high school at all. Like, I never thought about it. But, like, looking back, I can see events that happened that kind of prepared me. My grandmother died when I was a senior in high school, and that's kind of where I met the people who I ended up going to work for initially.
Wow.
So, you know, it was really just kind of an out of the blue thing. You know, hey, you're young and you're not 80 years old. I think you can probably help us out a little bit, and strong back and maybe a strong mind. I'm not sure how strong it was back then. So they just asked me to come work part time, work visitations or middle of the night work type things. And I said, sure, I'll try it out. Like, you seem like trustworthy guys. You took care of my grandmother. Like, let's try it out. And here we are, 10 years later. So,
So it wasn't on the radar.
No, originally I wanted to go into ministry, which, ironically,
what you're doing now sort of is like a ministry.
I think what we do now is a huge ministry to people. So it kind of worked out in a mysterious way.
No,
so,
it does. I mean, I'm sure it takes a special person to do what you do. I don't know if I could do that. Daniel, I don't know.
It's not creepy. It's compassionate.
No, I'm not. No, it's definitely not creepy.
Yeah,
I'm not talking about that. But you have to have. I mean,
there's a lot of misnomers about what we do.
Okay, let's talk about these misnomers.
That's a big word.
It is.
That is
How
a
do
big
you
word.
spell misnomer?
Mis-M-O.
Okay, never. This is a spelling bee podcast. So seriously, how about some myths in your industry that people think?
Any story that starts off with, well, my uncle said, is probably not true.
Yeah.
So,
you probably hear that a lot, don't you?
Yeah, I do. You hear all kind of things. Yeah, my uncle was down there at a funeral and they said the body set up in the casket. Yeah, that didn't happen.
That doesn't happen?
No.
So bodies don't raise up out of the casket during a funeral?
If they did that, I would not be in this business.
Yeah.
I would not.
I thought it just happened.
No.
No.
So, I mean, like, obviously there's, the myths about those type of things, what do they do behind the scenes? And, not to get into too much detail, but everything we do is out of compassion for someone's loved one. What we do is try to give families a peaceful and lasting memory of their loved one, and then just walk them through the hardest days of their life. So, there's definitely that misnomer that, funeral directors can be, greedy, trying to take advantage of people during their time of need. And, not to say that there has not been a bad apple in the group, but I would say 99% of the funeral directors that I know and places that I've worked, they are just there to literally walk alongside of families during grief. And sometimes, especially me, grieve with them. Some families become like another extra family. So I don't think that, funeral directors are greedy people that are just trying to, make money. But
the education part that has to come to prepare you for this role and to do this daily, certificates, things that you've gone through, I can only imagine. It's not like you can just walk in and say, okay, here I am.
No. Fortunately, our state legislature has done a very good job of making this not a hard field to get into, but it's hard enough to where we kind of weed out the bad apples before we get there. But yeah, definitely there's some stories that I've been told, and there have been some things that I've ran in. I was actually telling my wife last night about a story from when I was working at the funeral home in Sumter when I first got started, and we got a call like 3 o'clock in the morning to take someone's loved one into our care. So it was like 3 in the morning. I go to the funeral home, pick up the vehicle to go pick this person up from the hospital. I get back to the funeral home, get everything taken care of, and as I'm walking out, I hear a telephone ringing, and it wasn't the office line, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there is somebody. It was a cell phone ringing. I thought it was a cell phone. And I hauled tail. The next morning, my boss at the time, Alan Cannon, was like, why did you not set the alarm when you left last night? And I was like, dude, I'm going to be honest. I heard a phone ringing and I got there and he was like, you big dummy. That was the fax machine. So
awesome.
Yeah, there are anytime you're at a funeral home at 3 o'clock in the morning, there's always
imagine that
the creepy things and those misnomers that people think happen, but a lot of the times they just turn out to be the fax machine.
That's right.
Yep, that's right.
Just the facts. Give me just the facts.
Just the facts. All right, so that's a little bit about the business and what you do. So what does William do when he's not being the funeral director or managing director at McAlister-Smith?
apparently we're having kids.
Apparently you are.
But no, so recently, Paul and Daniel know this. I've recently taken up golf.
Yes, you have.
I have. And so that's been a lot of fun. I did not realize how de-stressing golf could be.
Addictive.
It can be so addictive.
Or stressing.
If you're not good. It is very stressful.
Yeah, so I've picked that up. It's been a lot of fun. It's opened a lot of doors to hang out with people, too. So that's been great. And then I really love to cook. So I love to barbecue. And so that's always fun. Don't get to really do as much of the in detail fun cooking as we used to. Having 3 kids around.
Yeah,
but
your time is spent elsewhere now.
Yeah, equally as fun.
Right on.
And way more important. But you can still find me on Instagram, Undertaker Barbecue.
Undertaker Barbecue.
That's right. Meet your cremator. M-E-A-T.
There's another spelling. Meet your cremator. And then other things in the community involved with those as well?
Yeah, so involved with the chamber. I'm on the board there. So
thank you for your service.
Yeah, absolutely.
The chamber. Yes.
And then one of my other passions, hobbies, whatever you want to call it, is I am a volunteer firefighter with Dutch Fork Fire Rescue. So that's a lot of fun. It's like a second family over there.
What is that like, a volunteer firefighter? Like, I'm going to volunteer to run into a burning building. Who does that?
The Undertaker.
Okay, the Undertaker, right?
My granddad was a firefighter where I grew up, so that was kind of one of those things I just really wanted to get into. And I guess, if funeral director doesn't work out, I can always fall back on the fire department. But it's great. It's just another way to give back to the community. It's another way to be there for people during one of the most hectic times and worst times of their life. It's not just fires that we're going to, it's medical calls or car wrecks or whatever it may be. The other day we went to somebody's house that their pipe burst, and I was like, you probably need to call a plumber, not the fire department. But,
but thanks for calling.
Yeah, it's just being there for people. And there was a mentor of mine that told me, no matter where you go, just leave the place better than when you got there. That's what it's all about. It's just leaving Chapin, West Columbia, everywhere we go, a better place than when we got there.
What comes to mind when you're talking, William, about all this service with the fire department and with the funeral home, it sparks that motto of service above self.
Yes,
right. We're all 3 Rotarians sitting at this table right now, and the Rotary's motto is service above self. And William, you really embody that motto of service above self, whether it's with the funeral home or whether it's with the fire department. I mean, that is legit service above self.
And 3 kids.
And 3 kids.
And 3 kids. So, William, is there a hardship or something that you've overcome that kind of comes to mind when you think about your past?
I guess you could say there is. I'll be the first to say, there's nothing really that, huge in my opinion, but, I tend to think more about the hardships that I deal with every day with the families that we serve. I said kind of like we like to walk alongside of them. So me as a funeral director, which this could be very unhealthy, I really immerse myself into these families, and what the grief that they're feeling, obviously my feelings aren't going to be as strong as theirs, but really getting in there with them, not touching, but hugging, and let's grieve and together, let's cry together. Right. So feeling their hardships and helping them overcome those hardships and just being there for them is just kind of what I think about when I think hardships.
You can't do what you do without feeling some sort of feeling, right? You're gonna feel pain and grief, no matter what role you're playing in that. There are specific funerals that I've been a part of that I can name every single detail just because of how horrible it was for those families. And and that's why it's hard for me to name a hardship, because I've seen so many other hardships that I'm like, man, I got it pretty good. So
that being said, what's something that you do at McAlister-Smith maybe that's unique to your brand or to you to assist those families or to help those families?
Yeah, so we like to embody what we call every option, every family, every time. So we don't want a family to come in and we just say, here's what we're going to do. It's let's sit down, let's learn about the person who's passed, let's learn about what they wanted. Let's also learn about what you want as the surviving family, because many times I've been told, the funerals are not for the dead, they're for the living. It's about creating a space where that grief process can start. So learning about the family's needs is something that we really take seriously, and then just giving them those options. We don't want to sell a family anything, but we want to prepare them with the options, the different selections they have, so they can find and select what works well for them. So we try to focus on that. And then one of the really big things that I think is very unique about what we do is our pet loss department. So we're actually
pet loss department.
Pet loss department. So we are the only funeral home in the area that also has a pet loss department, meaning when someone's pet passes away, we treat them just as another family member. So someone can come in when they lose, their animal or their pet. That pet family can come in and make arrangements for them, and they get that dignified respect and honor, just as someone in their human family would get. So it's
cool.
Looking at everything.
What kind of pets? What kind of pets? Like, is it
Dogs,
just like big dogs?
cats.
Is it like goldfish?
Anything.
Goldfish?
Anything.
I just flushed the goldfish down the toilet.
No,
Is that what you're supposed to do?
Don't do that. Don't do that. Take it to McAlister-Smith.
My bad.
That's right.
So, you have done like guinea pigs or something?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. So people are serious about their pets.
They are.
They're very
It's
serious.
another family member.
It is. For some people that maybe they didn't have kids. They're dogs or cats, or they're like their kids.
I like my pets more than my kids sometimes.
Yeah.
It's true.
Some people really like their pets more than their mother-in-law. Yeah. So
So it's a like full. Explain for our listeners what that is exactly.
So the big thing is their pet passes away. They want to do something for them. And we think about like Chapin right now, how fast it's growing. We don't all have the farm in the backyard where we can go bury Lassie.
Right.
So, and we're all very transient now. You move to one house and the next house and the next house, whatever it may be. So why not treat that pet family member as like a human family member? Have them cremated. You can keep them. You can memorialize them. You can have paw prints, nose prints, anything done. And so a big thing that what we've started is here in the Midlands and in our Charleston locations, we've been reaching out to all of our canine police departments, or police departments that have law enforcement officials that have canine officers.
Okay.
And so we do those at no cost.
Wow.
Yeah. So, partnering with those local agencies, and we recently have served SLED with one of their dogs that passed away, and then Columbia Police Department as well. So creating, a space to memorialize a canine officer as well. So we're really just trying to do what we call community partnerships, partnering with different people in the community to establish those relationships and just be there for them.
That is fascinating.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
I like
for your
that.
pet, the dignity of your pet.
And so you just go, say my dog passes away, I reach out to you. You come in and get the dog. Do I need to bring it to you?
Either or.
Okay.
You can bring it to us. A lot of times we're going to the vet office to pick up the pet from the vet, or if they are able to pass away at home, then we'll come right there to the house. It really is not a whole lot of difference in what we do for pets than what we would do for anybody else.
Right.
And I think that's what sets us apart. There's a lot of pet crematories out there, but we're a funeral home that tries to take a unique and individualized approach to everything that we do and create those relationships with people.
And I would think that if I trust you with Lassie, then I'll also trust you with Grandpa.
Right. You would think so. You would think so.
You would hope so.
Wow.
So. That's great. Well, William, this has been a great conversation. How can our listeners learn more about you and McAlister-Smith?
So they can follow us on Facebook.
Okay.
They can call me directly, or they can visit our website. So we are a family-owned, family-operated, value-priced funeral home. So we are very transparent on what we do, what we offer, and we try to keep it affordable for families. Many people have to pay a lot of money for funerals, and that's something that we try to do, is keep things affordable and transparent for families. So they can just give us a call or stop by anytime. There's a lot of great things to do on State Street in West Columbia.
Yes, there is. Well, William, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks so much for your service to our community. We appreciate all that you do.
All right, and that wraps up our Chamber Neighbors podcast with William Lynch with McAlister-Smith Funeral Home.
This has been the Chapin Neighbors Podcast, where we highlight all that makes our community special. We hope you enjoyed our time together. Please like, subscribe, and share the Chapin Chamber Neighbors Podcast.